Hello everybody, John Lynn here from Hugo Coffee Roasters making another video. And today's topic is cold brew coffee. So we're going to talk about some different ways you can make cold brew coffee, as well as some different offerings we have here at Hugo Coffee Roasters. The first thing I'd like to talk about is kind of what is cold brew coffee. When we're talking about cold brew coffee, we're talking about ground coffee that's been steeped in cold water versus in hot water. So when you're making your normal French press per se, you're going to put your coffee in here, your hot water, we're going to steep it 4 minutes, we're going to pour, you're ready to go. With cold brew, we're going to do very much the same thing, except it's going to be a much longer process. When we get it a really rich, really flavorful cup of coffee that tastes really good cold and has far less acidity. One of the main draws for cold brew is that it has 65 to 70% less acidity than normal hot coffee. And that's because the temperature of the water isn't pulling out a lot of the acids that would normally be drawn out from the ground coffee. So we get a coffee that is really easy on the stomach, really easy to drink, and tastes great. Another cool thing about cold brew is it's more shelf stable than hot coffee. The reason that kind of single cup usage has kind of blown up in the past couple of years is because not a lot of people want to make a whole pot of coffee, drink it throughout the day, even if they're going to have a couple of cups, because coffee that's been sitting there an hour or two tastes different than fresh coffee. With cold brew, we do not have that issue. Once your cold brew is ready to drink, you have 1 to 2 weeks before we're going to need to get rid of that coffee, and definitely it's a week before you're going to see a lot of flavor changes going on. So you can make a lot of coffee in advance, and it's ready to go for you at any time. Here at Hugo Coffee Roasters, we have a coffee that's designated just for cold brew. It's called our Dog Days Cold Brew. We really like coffees from kind of Central Africa. We really like using coffees from Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda, and even Tanzania sometimes. That's just a growing area we really like for cold brew. Really sweet, rich coffees that are, typically, or at least the ones we're looking for, aren't extremely high in acidity. Coffees that aren't really fruit forward or floral, because we're not going to be able to extract any of those flavors out with our cold water anyway. So the coffees we're focusing on are coffees that are just going to be really nice for making cold brew. So we're going to move on to how do I make cold brew? How do we get this in our house? It's really easy. Got some cold brew right here, really good. There are many different systems and ways you can make cold brew. We're going to talk about 4. So we have a French press, we have a cold brew kit from Toby, and we have a cold brew kit from a company called Trellis. Now all of these are a little bit different ways that you can make cold brew at home, but all work great. The first thing we'll talk about is the French press. So a lot of people have a French press around. This is a great way you can make cold brew at home before you want to invest maybe in a cold brew kit to see if this is something that you'll utilize, if this is something that's for you. What we're going to do is we're going to pour coffee into our French press. We're going to pour cold water right on top. We're going to give it a stir, make sure all those grounds are nice and saturated. We're going to pop our lid on, and then we're going to let this sit. It can steep anywhere from 12 to 24 hours, depending on the coffee you're using, depending on how strong you like your coffee, depending on what you prefer. If it tastes better to you at 12 hours versus at 24 hours, that's just pure personal preference. So we have our French press, which is a great way to kind of learn cold brew at home before you might invest in kind of a ready to go cold brew kit. The next thing I want to talk about is the Toby system. Now this is a really cool system. It's been around at least 10 or 15 years now, I would say. But it's this little bucket, got a plug in the bottom, and we have a cloth filter right here. So what we're going to do, we're going to rinse our filter, get our plug in, pop both of those in the bottom. We're going to pour a cup of water into our toddy. After that, we're going to pour 6 ounces of coffee on top of that, and then 3 more cups of water. At that point, what we want to do is take a spoon, and we're going to kind of push those grounds back down into the water. It's important not to stir because that can end up clogging the filter. We don't want to give it a big, tornado stir. We just want to push those grounds right back in there. Then what we're going to do is 6 more ounces of coffee, and then follow up with that with 3 more cups of water. And we're going to do our last push those grounds in deep, cover this, and then we're going to set it aside. And once again, we're going to let it steep 12 to 24 hours, depending on preference. Now, those are the exact recommendations used by the Toddy company. However, depending on how you like your coffee, what coffee you're using, those ratios, the water to coffee ratios can change, as well as the time can change. And we'll talk about that a little more in a second. And the third method that we have today is the Trellis Method. This is a method I really like. It's really fun, really cool. It's just this big mesh filter. And you can't really see through it. It's really heavy duty, really nice filter to use. Got a nice gasket right there as well as a lid. You can buy this on its own. You can get it with the mason jar. You can get a full kit, whatever you want to do. But this goes inside of a large half-gallon wide mouth mason jar. You just take your coffee right into the top, set that into your mason jar. We're going to pour cold water in, and then we're just going to take our lid right on top of our mason jar, close it off, and set it aside, and that is good to go. It's going to make some really great cold brew at home. Then the last thing I wanted to talk about is our cold brew packs. This is something new to Hugo, kind of new to the cold brew and coffee market, and it's really easy to use, and it's a little bit different than the other cold brew systems. So we have our traditional dog days cold brew right here, and then we also have a light roast called Nutric that we're offering in our cold brew packs as well. And what this is we open those up, we're going to find big tea bags that are filled with coarsely ground coffee. We want to eat our coffee nice and coarse for the Toddy system, so we don't end up, mucking up any of the filters. We don't get the sludge into our cold brew. So we're going to nice coarse ground. We have our coarse ground coffee right in our little pouches, and then we're just going to drop these pouches into some sort of carafe, something you would make iced tea in, something like that at home, and then we're going to steep it. When we're ready to go, we'll pull this out, and we've got cold brew. Now, our recommendations on the back of the packs are we're going to drop one of these bags into water, and we are going to leave it in 1 quart of water for 12 hours. If we do that, we're going to pull our tea bag out, and we have a ready-to-drink product. As soon as you pull that out, pour it into a cup, add some ice, really, ready-to-go cold brew. This was the best coffee to water ratio in our testing, as well as the best time. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't change things up a little bit. I like to do a little bit longer steep personally, get a little bit more rich, full flavor. You can steep these up to 24 hours even. And when you pull that water out, you have made a coffee concentrate. So you can take that, you can add a little bit of cold water to what you've been steeping your tea bag in already, and to where you can get that nice, balance, something that you really like. And you can do the same things with all of them. You can do 12 hours here and have something that's close to ready to drink. You can do 18 hours up to 24 hours. But if you are doing the longer steeps, those longer times, typically that's going to make a very strong, very caffeinated concentrate. So you're going to want to dilute that with some fresh cold water. I think that's everything we have to talk about for cold brew today. Just a little bit of know-how for how to do this at home, what cold brew actually is, how it's different, and what coffees we use to make cold brew. Everything about cold brew. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Hope you guys have some good iced coffee now that the hot summer days are coming. And enjoy it. Bye-bye.